Please welcome Technical Sergeant Jarrett Lybrand, who will provide a threat briefing.
All right, good morning everyone. I'm Technical Sergeant Jarrett Lybrand. I'm going to be providing your threat briefing for today. I work in the intelligence section for Assured Access Space Program Office, and I'm going to go over some threats to the commercial industry. Okay, so here's an overview. What are we going over today? So looking at supply chain risk management, cyber threats to supply chain risk management, other aspects of the industry, technological espionage, and some SCADA concerns. Now, how did we arrive to these? So we have to look at where is space mobility at today. So sure, the space launch program is leaps and bounds ahead of what it was a decade or two ago, but it's not just about getting to space, but maintaining that presence in space. So when we're talking about proliferated constellations of orbital refueling, talking about rapid reconstitution, point-to-point delivery, et cetera, there's a number of things that support space mobility and ensuring we have that present access in space. So I'm going to start off with space supply chain. So the supply chain, it's the lifeblood of any industry, right? It's to keep the enterprise rolling, having those resources in the manufacturing process to support that enterprise. And what all does the supply chain support in terms of space mobility? So we're looking at national security, looking at the National Security Space Launch Program, getting assets in and out, into orbit for military operations, protection of the homeland. Looking at the economic side, the space launch industry has benefited greatly off commercial investment, allowing the launch industry to become what it is today and getting that launch cadence to where it is now compared to what it used to be. As well as scientific advancement, looking at domestic space exploration programs such as NASA or our allied partners, looking to advance human civilization, get us out there, get access to those resources into our solar system and beyond. And all this supports, all these are instruments of national power that our adversaries do not agree with, and what are they doing to try to get after and mitigate these kinds of actions. So I want to start off with one concern, which is called white labeling. So white labeling is a process in which a company will work with other companies to rebrand and sell their products, or they will dismantle their equipment, sell it for disparate parts, who will then reincorporate it into other pieces of equipment. Now I want to use, for an example, I want to cover two companies, Hikvision and Dahua. So these are two companies who are the largest providers of surveillance equipment in the People's Republic of China. Now, they were banned a couple of years ago by the FCC because of their ties to the People's Republic of China government, the support to them, as well as their ties to human rights abuses. Now, where this becomes a concern is because they were banned for sale in the US and for purchase by the US government, they can use processes such as white labeling to circumvent these bans and find their ways onto markets of otherwise they would have been banned in. While white labeling is a legal process as long as the two companies agree not to infringe on intellectual property or any regulations in that, they also rely on an honor system to ensure that the end state consumer is aware of this process, of which they don't have to, They don't have to highlight that they are doing this. So this poses concerns when it comes to quality control. Where are they getting these resources? Where are they manufacturing this equipment? Now, in the security surveillance side, where this poses a problem is where they can access this information and bring it back to the government. But where white labeling becomes a concern in general is because the process can be used in any way, shape, or form in the enterprise. So especially in the industry when you're acquiring resources, where are you getting it from? These electronic components, are they coming from companies that cut corners to either make extra money on the side or aren't necessarily worried about any regulations or safety concerns that we are worried about, especially when it comes to involvement into national security. Now going on to the cyber threats to space supply chains. So as we all know, the supply chain is integrated across a wide array of network, whether it's between companies, countries, organizations, et cetera. And because of all these avenues and interconnections, it allows adversaries numerous avenues through which to get into your networks and to get access and try to burrow their way into the networks. And it's especially important, especially for space supply chain, considering that the program itself is all about technological development. So how can adversaries try to get in there and steal your data and steal your finances, whatever hard work you put into, just to cut corners so they can make it there before you do? So going over a couple common cyber attack tactics. Now, while there's a large amount of them, I want to cover these since these are probably the most popular ones how they would go after. So living off the land, using legitimate tools and features already present in your network. So any program that you wouldn't otherwise suspect being on your network, and using either unpatched vulnerabilities or other ways to maintain a presence in your network and allow them to persist to attack and get after whatever they need in your network. Evil twin phishing, unsecured Wi-Fi hotspots, especially after COVID when remote work was very highly pushed, employees potentially using public Wi-Fis, their own personal Wi-Fis. Who knows where they're operating? Who knows who actually owns those Wi-Fis they're connecting to? Nefarious actors just waiting for any unwitting participant to get onto it and then use that to piggyback back into your networks and gain access through that way. Man-in-the-middle phishing, especially when it comes to the commercial industry, that sensitive communication to secure your intellectual property and your intellectual property and trying to get access to it, whether to get sensitive information on that or subvert your communications to halt your processes. Now I want to highlight a couple case studies to set the precedent, to not just highlight that this is a possibility, but this has happened before. So looking at Volt Typhoon with China, targeting US critical infrastructure in Indo-Pacific region, going after command and control nodes. Semiconductor espionage, North Koreans going after South Korean semiconductor facilities, stealing their data to support their programs while hindering their own progress. Midnight Blizzard with Russia, not just going after government institutions, but the commercial industry, going after corporate email accounts, sensitive data about their employees, whatever finances they can steal, as well as cyber criminals, Storm 0539, so non-state affiliated actors going after phishing attempts and smishing attacks. Smishing is a relatively new term I learned of recently, so it's SMS attacks. So as I'm sure you're all aware, you receive those random text messages, the USPS office, you have a package in customs. They're just looking for anyone to click a link, they use that unwitting participant, and they found their way into the network. They cast a wide array of net, and all they need is one person to click something they're not supposed to, and they found their way in. So looking at PRC cyber intrusion goals, while the People's Republic of China is not the only nefarious actor to commit these kinds of actions against the enterprise, they stand as the biggest principal infringer of these kinds of actions against both government and commercial institutions. So what separates them from the rest? Using their cyber techniques to try to maintain a presence in the network and use it to their leverage whenever they deem see fit. So going after critical infrastructure, going after your commercial industry, and if it's suitable to them to advance their own agenda or they don't like where the commercial industry is at, trying to limit and stop it in its tracks. All right. Now let's say cyber actor, nefarious actor, they've infiltrated your supply chain, they've gotten to your networks, and now what's next for them? Technological espionage. So especially in the commercial industry where space mobility is out now, developing those technologies. The US economy loses hundreds of billions of dollars annually due to counterfeit goods, such as white labeling, getting counterfeit hardware onto your supply chains, pirated software, and the theft of trade secrets. While many state-sponsored actors practice technological espionage, China serves as the principal infringer of intellectual property, and they sponsor numerous programs to support these endeavors, one of which I'm going to cover, the 1,000 Talents Program. So the 1,000 Talents Program is a state-sponsored program in which they go after Chinese nationals working abroad who have special placement and access into the industry, whether it's government, defense, or commercial, or academia. And they use tactics such as coercion, using their families back home and holding them hostage to do their bidding, or offering large sums of money to entice them and turn their loyalty away from their company. Now, while they mostly focus on people of Chinese origin, they're not above going after anyone who has special access. Anyone in projects such as nanotech, semiconductor research, defense projects, biomedical research, offering ridiculous sums of money to try to turn anyone. All they need is just one person to allow them access into the network. So again, set the precedent, going over their notable acts of technological espionage. April 2006, China hackers break into NASA and stealing the shuttle information on the shuttle program. February 2008, a former Boeing contractor used his position to leverage data out of the company and sell it back to China. Figuring out on the back end that he had been working with the government for decades. They reached out to him long before, and all this time was using any access, any program he had is now at risk. August 2020, professor at Texas A&M was found filtering information back to the Republic of China and was found to be involved in the 1,000 Talents Program. Now, the 1,000 Talents Program is just one of the many programs that are out there. So there are plenty of more that we haven't uncovered yet, and it could be plenty of other countries doing these actions and committing it. The big takeaway from this is there is plenty of actors going after the industry, trying to get after that technology. All the hard work and money and resources you poured in to develop that information is being stolen at an adversary's whim and just kicking them up to wherever you're at. Now let's say an adversary, they broke into your supply chain, they infiltrated it, they got into your networks, they stolen data, they stolen finances. So what's left for them to do as long as they have access? It's go after your SCADA systems, your industrial equipment, your means to produce and manufacture your goods. So in the industry, there's a lot of industrial equipment that supports the manufacturing processes, such as wastewater treatment, electrical power, water power, HVAC, et cetera. Anything used to support the great machine that supports the industrial process. Now, because of all this industrial equipment is spread off on a wide array of land, it requires a single point to operate for the assembly line to move forward amicably. Now, this allows cyber actors, as long as they have access into your networks, they'll try to use that, maneuver into your industrial equipment, and try to shut it down, take control of you, or make it operate in an unsafe manner and destroy it. So here I want to highlight a report from the Department of Homeland Security over a roughly 5-month time span of cyber attacks against critical infrastructure all across the US. Now this doesn't include ransomware attacks, so whether it's state-sponsored or individual cyber actors looking to steal money or hold networks hostage. But as you can see, Iranian cyber actors, Russian cyber actors, Chinese cyber actors going after any and all systems that they can get after, and it doesn't matter. Government, civilian, commercial, anything, nothing is below their reach and beneath their notice. And regardless of what their intentions are, whether it's to steal money from them, hold the technology hostage, practice their own techniques just for their own favor. Now again, set the precedent, go after some notable SCADA cyber intrusion events. Looking at Stuxnet back in 2010. So Stuxnet was a malware that infected an Iranian nuclear centrifuge and made it operate beyond safe parameters. It caused catastrophic damage to the nuclear reactor and set back the Iranian nuclear program. German steel mill back in 2014, their company account was hacked through a phishing attempt, and cyber actors used that position to work their way into the industrial equipment, forcing blast furnaces to shut down in an uncontrollable manner, causing catastrophic damage to the mill. Crash override 2015, malware getting into the Ukrainian power grid, actors shutting down 30 substations, causing power outages for hundreds of thousands of people, only to do so again the year after. And the Colonial pipeline back in 2021, ransomware actors holding the networks hostage, demanding millions of dollars while subsequently causing gas shortages all across the East Coast. Big takeaway from a lot of these events is the fact that these weren't just single point events that ended there. There were secondary and tertiary effects that rolled down the hill that affected so many people beyond them. So how do we mitigate some of these vulnerabilities? We got to look at some threat modeling exercises. So in the military, a lot of what we like to do is called red cell attacks. So you hire your own people to go after and find vulnerabilities in your own network and try to shore them up before the adversaries can find them. Test out, devil's advocate, if you will. Human-in-the-loop contingencies, especially when it comes to cyber intrusions. Cyber actors thrive on those interconnected nodes so they can maneuver freely throughout your network unmitigated. If you practice contingencies where you require physical interactions or physical people in the process to ensure these actions can go forward, it helps stop their flow so they can't have full access and full maneuverability into your system. And physical security of access points. Because industrial equipment is spread out across a large array of land, much of these not necessarily protected or watched over as securely as they should be. So anyone could just walk up and tap in, and all your hard work for defending your industry, it's just gone in a second. So building a resilient space supply chain ecosystem. So you got to practice integrated risk management. You got to have that acceptable level of risk, especially when it comes to whatever you're going after, regardless if you're involved with the government or not. Getting after that technology, the adversaries don't care who you're involved with. If it poses a benefit to them, they'll go after you. So implementing those security controls. Collaboration and communication. As I'm sure we all understand, especially in the industry, you don't necessarily want to highlight your vulnerabilities or when you've been infiltrated or attacked, because it shows insecurity in your company. But without the collaboration, communication, sharing that information, threat actors thrive on that. The lessons aren't learned, and they can just continue their operations unabated unless that information is shared and you're working with those partnerships. Strengthening third-party relationships. So especially in the industry, when you get out to subcontracting, are you vetting these subcontractors properly? Where are they getting their resources from? Where are they doing their work? Are they cutting corners where they shouldn't be? Do you want to be associated with these people? It's absolutely adamant that you vet these people properly as best as you can to secure your own positions. And addressing insider risks. It goes without said, the hardest threat to address is insider risks, your own people betraying you. Kind of as what I brought up with the 1,000 Talents program. There's active measures out there to go after your own people, whether they're unwitting or not. So looking at a call to action, how do we protect space mobility? So proactive threat hunting, kind of what I brought up with the red cell, looking at your own vulnerabilities, shoring them up before the adversary can get after them. Supply chain due diligence, where are you getting your resources from? Are you getting them from notable organizations or the right organizations, the right countries, et cetera. Incident response planning, having that resilient architecture so in the event you do get attacked, how can you keep the assembly lines rolling? How can you bounce back from those attacks? Because there are plenty of them out there. What I just highlighted was just the tip of the iceberg compared to what is out there and what they can go after. So having those fallback plans is absolutely necessary. And I want to conclude my brief with a quote from President Xi Jinping a couple years ago at a cybersecurity conference. We must sustain and enhance our superiority across the entire production chain, and we must tighten the international production chain's dependence on China, forming a powerful countermeasure and deterrent capability against foreigners who would artificially cut off supply to China. So they pretty much put it out there. They're actively going after supply chains, regardless who you work with, who you're supporting, what you're working for, as long as it serves their benefit. And when push comes to shove, if they find that you're standing in the way of their ability to project their own national power, they'll shut you out or they'll weaponize it against you, and they have no qualms about it. Especially after seeing how vulnerable the supply chain is after 2020, when logistics supply chains shut down, ships weren't getting to ports, resources weren't making it to their endpoints. The supply chain is incredibly vulnerable, and it only grows more vulnerable every single day. The larger it grows and the more partnerships we have. And that concludes my brief.